Hey, how's it going, guys? Domino Paris 21 here, and back again to bring you guys another updated deck profile for you all. So of course, what I have to present to you guys is my Vermillion Zablado deck. Now, the first version that I actually had on my channel a while back was actually my friend's deck, which me and him, worked on together. But since then, Narukami has moved on to newer and greater things, hence, Eradicators and such. And Eradicators is the, far superior deck to the Blood. The Blood can still be a little outdated, but nonetheless, the Blood can still be pretty annoying to deal with at times. And when the deck's really going right for you, I mean, he can still be very impactful to your opponent. And I mean, it's still always satisfying to just thunderbolt your opponent's front row. It still brings a certain satisfaction to me. So I think that will never get old for me. So yeah, without further ado, let's actually get to it. So first off, for your starter, you are playing Spark Kid Dragoon. Really the best starter for this deck, just with the simple fact is that he allows you to try and get your Crossfight off consistently, which is very, very important, because that's one perk that this deck does have compared to a lot of Eradicator builds outside of Saber Reverse, is that fact is it's still a Crossfight deck. So it's very important just to get that Crossfight off consistently. So that's that for that starter. Next up for grade 3s, of course you're running 4 Zablud and 4 Vermillion. So I am sticking just to 4/4 in this deck. Like I said, not only that I just want to try and get the Crossfight off consistently as possible, but just having more access to just standalone 11k beaters is very, very beneficial. So that's a main reason why I like the 4/4. Now, as you notice here, I'm not playing Vowing Sword Dragons, which is the break ride for Narukami, which I think is complete trash in this deck. He does not work well with this deck. He doesn't synergize with Vermillion, obviously, because with the break ride, obviously when you ride a Narukami on top of it, you pop a front row, but Vermillion is already attacking the front row anyway, so it's counterproductive. And while I mean it's decent to use to maybe try and wear down your opponent's field, make them call more units, and then Vermillion them, it just only slows down the deck. So I think it's just better just to simply focus solely on just getting a Crossfight off, which is a lot more viable for this build anyway. And it's simple as that. I mean, the break ride is just trash in this deck. And then next up for grade 2s, you have your 4 Dusty Plasmas, which is 12k attackers. Definitely gotta run 4 of those. You have your 3 Thunderstorm Dragoon, just good 10ks. Always good to have. And your 4 Garuda, which is the damage and flipper when you hit the Vanguard. I was actually trying to get a 4th one, but I somehow couldn't get a 4th one, so I just put Dragoon in there. But I think 4 is really, very viable for Garuda, just because it's very important just to try and unflip Counterblast, which is very, very huge in this deck. So your opponent's gonna be this probably be like the scariest card in your deck, just because obviously with Vermillion and Blood they're Counterblast 3s, so your opponent will fear the Garuda. So that's it for grade 2s. And then next up for grade 1s, you have your 4 Red River Dragoons, which of course is just your AK Vanillas. I really like the new artwork for this, so it actually makes me even more obligated to play these. But yeah, it looks really, really awesome. Your 4 Wyvern Guard Golds. So these perfect guards are really, really cheap, obviously, because since the Eradicator ones, there's the Eradicator Gold, so definitely got to run the 4 perfect guards. Then you run 3 Genkaku. Definitely one of the, probably like the best grade 1 in the deck. So he's the self-damager, so obviously, when you place him on the field, Counterblast 1, and give yourself 1 damage face up, and then you return 1 card back into the deck. So obviously, of course, one big downside to the Blood that people give him a lot of, really gives him a bad rep, is that he's an ultimate break. So you have to wait till you're at 5 damage to get that +5 in a crit, which I really do like Blood better than regular Vermillion just because of that extra crit, and the fact is it's +5. But that extra crit is can be very huge for you. So just having access to the Genkaku as quickly as possible and consistently as possible is really, really huge, because obviously, if you're sitting on the Blood cross-ridden, your opponent's going to be very reluctant on giving that 5 damage, so they probably will just waste their extra attacks on your rear guards, which you'll probably replace anyway. And So the Genkaku just comes in really clutch. And there's actually one game where I was like at 3 damage, I just cross-ridden, and I dropped like 2 of these and like critted my opponent. So he's a very amazing card and very important to this deck because your opponents will fear your Blood and Vermillion. So you know, punishing your opponents for, you know, playing scared is always going to be good in this deck. So that's what Genkaku allows you to do. So really amazing at 3. I am playing 2 Desert Garden Ryan. He does have a, you know, fairly decent skill. Is, you know, when he's placed on Vanguard and Rearguard, you essentially, you know, stun one of your opponent's interceptors. So you choose one of their interceptors, or Rearguards in the front row, they can't intercept. I really like him that he's just a 7k, so he can still hit some good numbers in the deck for you. But most important, but his skill can come in pretty handy. Like if your opponent has maybe like a dead grade 2 that they're probably intercepting with anyway, you can just like stun that grade 2 and keep it on the field to get so they can get thunderbolted the next turn. So that way your opponent kind of loses values on some of the grade 2s. So I mean, he still comes in clutch for you sometimes, but it's really the 7k I like. And then I am running 2 Rising Phoenix. With Rising Phoenix, is this your Luckbird clone? Place on Rearguard Circle, Soul Blast 2, draw a card. Now I chose not to play Photon Bomb or Wyverns just because I like the Rising Phoenix a lot better, just because just giving you those extra draw power in the deck, which this deck can really lack, is very beneficial. You still can hit good numbers. The fact is you have a lot of 11Ks and 12K attackers in the deck. Now the thing with Photon Bomb or Wyvern, it's like, I don't know, like when you run 2 of these, I don't seem to draw him early enough, so then a lot of times it's kind of awkwardly my Vanguard, you know, circle, my Vanguard booster open to try and reserve it for him. But then at the same time, you know, I don't want to run 3 of these because I feel like there's just better grade 1s to play that are more beneficial for the deck. And on top of that, I mean, if you're dealing with an 11k Vanguard, all you have to do is put a Red River Dragoon behind a cross-ridden Blood, and you're hitting for 21, which is still fine. And if you're dealing with cross rides, then, well, you deal with cross rides, because there are times where you can just simply just not be cross-ridden, and the Photon Bomber doesn't do anything. So, I mean, the Rising Phoenix I felt is a lot more beneficial, and you still have easy ways to hit the key numbers that you want. And then, I mean, as long as you're getting off Vermillion, or like particularly the Blood a few times, if you can get them off twice in a game, I mean, it's very impactful for your opponent. It's really tough for a lot of decks to really effectively handle that. So, so that's one reason why I really just don't play Photon Bombers. So yep, and then last but not least, which is like the most important part of this deck, I am running 12 crits in the deck. So, and 4 heal. So the idea with 12 crits is simple as this. As I always like to say with a lot of my friends, is the lesser tier the deck is, the harder the deck actually has in terms of you know, pressuring your opponents or pressuring other more competitive decks, or just being competitive. Adding more crits can really help. Just because crit triggers are always going to be crit triggers. They're always going to win games for you and always allow some nice early pressure by just getting a lot of early free damage off. At the same time, you know, you're not going to be as punished as much for, you know, giving your opponent's limit break a little too early, because, you know, if you give your opponent a limit break a little early and they try to go off, then, well, you have Vermillion and Blood that can just clean up their field and punish them for that. So while, you know, you could easily get punished in this meta for giving your opponent's limit break a little too early, that's one thing I like about the Blood and just about the Vermillion cards in general, is that they punish decks that try to go off on you as well. So you have a nice fallback to go on. The fact is that these cards are just +2s. I mean, you have ways to, I mean, they kind of have their nice indirect pluses for themselves as well. So I definitely love the 12 crits in the deck, because, I don't know, I just didn't, like, draw triggers are still always nice, but, I mean, just getting an extra free draw is not as beneficial as just, you know, nailing your opponent with extra crits and then just killing them with Vermillions and Bloods when they try to push back at you. So I felt like it's more beneficial in this deck to run 12 crits. So yeah, there you have it, guys. That is the update for you all. So, I mean, the deck is still very simple, very easy to play. But, and like I said, you know, getting off the Blood a few times, at least twice in a game, can be very impactful for your opponent. And, you know, some decks really have trouble dealing with it. So, he's still a boss. I mean, the Vermillions are still bosses. And, I mean, Kai played him, and I love Kai. So that's why I chose to keep this deck for myself. So yeah, there you have it, guys. As always, don't forget to leave a thumbs up on this video and leave any questions or comments and such in the comments down below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you hadn't. And thanks again, guys, for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Later.